Everyone deals with noisy neighbors from time to time. But what do you do when you realize the apartment upstairs has been abandoned for years? After moving into his new building, Alex was informed that the apartment above his was vacant. The previous owner had passed away, and it hadn't been sold yet. But from the very first week, Alex could hear footsteps at night. Heavy footsteps. They would echo from one end of his ceiling to the other, even the unmistakable sound of furniture being dragged. He mentioned this to his landlord, who merely chuckled, "Trust me, no one's up there." One evening, driven by curiosity, Alex fetched a chair, stood on it, and tapped a few times on the ceiling. To his shock, 3 loud knocks immediately echoed back. He was paralyzed with fear as goosebumps prickled his skin. The next night, a loud thump jerked him awake. On his doormat, someone had left a key tied to a piece of string with an attached note, "Come upstairs." At 3 a.m., unable to settle his racing mind, Alex ventured to check the supposed empty apartment. The hallway was cloaked in darkness, and the door to the unit upstairs stood slightly open, precariously balanced on broken hinges. Inside, the apartment was entirely bare, walls stripped, floors coated in dust. Except, in the farthest corner of the room, there sat an armchair facing the wall. On the chair, a pair of muddy footprints rested on the seat, as though someone had stood there, silently observing the wall for endless hours. Heart-pounding, Alex backed out slowly. Yet, every night after that, when he sought the solace of sleep, the echoing footfalls resumed, pacing directly over his bed, haunting him. Emma and her boyfriend moved into a quiet suburban neighborhood, expecting tranquility and peace. Everything seemed perfect, charming homes, serene streets, until they met their neighbors. Tom and Sharon, a couple living next door, immediately caught their attention. Initially, they appeared courteous, with their constant waves and perpetual smiles from the porch. But soon, Emma noticed something unsettling. Their smiles, eternally fixed, never seemed to waver. Moreover, they would stand rigidly for hours on their front lawn, their gaze fixated on the street, never blinking, as if waiting for something or someone. Emma found it disturbing. On several occasions, a nightfall peek through the blinds revealed them still there, their shadows lingering ominously in the darkness, facing her house with unwavering stares. One fateful evening, as Emma hauled groceries to her door, Tom approached her in the driveway, smiling broadly and eerily unchanging. His eyes fixed on her, he extended a small box. "Welcome gift," he said, his voice as unsettling as his presence. Curiosity and dread mingled in her mind. Inside the box was a photograph, a picture of Emma, sound asleep, captured from within her bedroom. Chilling terror gripped her instantly. Panicked, they called the police. When officers arrived, however, the neighboring house appeared deserted. Furnitureless, it stood cloaked in dust, a spectral void untouched for years. Yet Emma and her boyfriend knew what they had seen. They weren't imagining it. Time passed, but every so often, when Emma checks through her windows, she thinks she sees Tom and Sharon. They're standing under the streetlight, still smiling, watching. Kids are supposed to be loud, playful, chaotic, not completely silent. Not wrong. Samantha loved her new townhouse. It was situated on a quiet street, and it boasted good neighbors, or so she thought. Except for the family next door, which consisted of a man, a woman, and 2 children. Often, Samantha would notice the kids standing silently in their front yard. They were as still as statues, their lips moving as if in conversation, yet no sound ever reached her ears. Occasionally, she would wave at them. In return, they'd smile, too widely, and wave back, never once blinking their eyes. Things took a turn for the worse. One night, as Samantha prepared for bed, she glimpsed the children standing by her second-floor bedroom window. She rushed over to yell at them, but when she opened the window, there was nothing but the night's breeze. Shortly afterward, there was a knock on her door. When Samantha opened it, the children stood there, smiling. Though their lips stayed still, Samantha heard their voices echoing in her mind. "Let us in. We want to play." She slammed the door with sudden urgency. The following day, desperate for answers, she approached a neighbor about the peculiar family. The neighbor seemed perplexed and then informed her. That house? It's been empty since last year. The family died. Gas leak. Now, every evening at dusk, Samantha is haunted by eerie reminders. Small, dirty handprints appear on her windows, high up on the second floor, leaving an unsettling presence that lingers far longer than twilight. Welcome to a world where the ordinary becomes eerie, and the mundane morphs into the mysterious. Let's delve into a tale that unfolds in a worn-down apartment building. The kind of place where tenants don't ask too many questions. In this nondescript setting, there's a particular unit, 6C. It had been vacant for months until one uneventful day when Jason noticed a new tenant moving in. Or did he? For what he actually saw was a man entering the apartment, carrying nothing but himself. Time trickled by, and Jason never once witnessed the man's departure from his abode. The lights in 6C remained on relentlessly, flickering shadows late into the night. Often, Jason would catch odd noises from within, the eerie scrape of furniture or guttural murmurs of a conversation with no visible counterpart. Then one night, while passing by, Jason saw 6C's door slightly ajar. In the dimly lit hall, the man stood still, occupying the threshold. His stare was unsettling, his face appearing unfinished. Jason felt the prickle of fear and hurried away. Strange occurrences began to haunt Jason's apartment soon after. Items misplaced, doors unlocked despite his surety of securing them. Then came a chilling morning discovery. Muddy footprints leading from his bedroom window directly to his bed, an undeniable imprint that didn't match his own. With trepidation, Jason peered through his peephole. What he saw twisted the coil of dread tighter. The man from 6C, stationed just outside his door, staring intently with an unyielding smile, eyes locked on his, without so much as a blink. What lies behind a closed door, and what does it mean when someone never leaves? In Jason's world, these questions linger, unanswered, feeding the fear of the unknown. When Mark moved into his new duplex, he was warned by the landlord about the neighbor next door, Mr. Finch. Finch was elderly, quiet, and mostly kept to himself. There was, however, one peculiar rule: never touch his basement door. Mark shrugged it off, thinking it was peculiar but not his business. Initially, he scarcely saw Finch, only catching glimpses of a stooped figure moving past dusty windows. Yet at night, the duplex wasn't quiet. Mark often heard odd noises from Finch's side, heavy banging, at times muffled screams, and once something that sounded unsettlingly like scratching. When Mark inquired, the landlord merely advised, "Don't get involved." An encounter was inevitable. One evening, while collecting his mail, Mark noticed Finch outside, standing by the mailbox, staring. Finch's eyes were completely black, and no words passed between them, just an unsettling silence. Curiosity eventually overcame Mark. A week later, he found Finch's front door slightly ajar. The stillness inside was palpable, save for the ominous presence of the basement door at the hallway's end. It was bolted tight, with 3 metal locks barring entry, and from behind there emanated a low, rasping breath. Hesitant, Mark turned to leave, but was stopped by something chilling. Scratched into the wood by the basement door were words, "Please, let me out." Panic overtook him, and he ran back to his side of the duplex. The following morning, Finch was gone. No trace remained, as if he had never been there. Yet, the basement door was still securely locked. And at night, in the quiet, Mark sometimes hears whispers calling to him, faintly, from the other side of the wall. Some neighbors just mind their own business. Others watch you so intently, it's like they're waiting for you to look back. Liam rented a small studio apartment facing a narrow alleyway. It was cozy, quiet, and perfect for his needs, or so he thought. Directly across from his window was another building, lined with dozens of windows, most of them enveloped in darkness, save for one. Every night without fail, Liam noticed a woman standing by her window directly across from his, her skin pale, her body motionless, every night wearing the same old-fashioned dress. Initially, he convinced himself it was a mannequin, a leftover from some forgotten shop display. But as nights passed by, he noticed her head. It would turn, tracking his movements around the room with uncanny precision. Resolute, he decided to ignore it, pulling his blinds shut, shielding himself from the unsettling presence. Then came the night when curiosity got the better of him. He risked a glance back across the alleyway. There she was, unwavering in her position, yet now a haunting smile stretched across her lips. Disturbed, he approached the building manager the following morning, eager for an explanation about the peculiar apartment. The manager's face darkened. That apartment's been sealed since a fire in the 90s. Nobody could have been in there. Returning to his haven, Liam's heart nearly stopped at the sight awaiting him. Scratched into the inside of his own window pane were chilling words. "Now you've seen me. Now I'm coming over." As the night cloaked the city again, an ominous tapping began. It wasn't coming from the alley. It came from within his own apartment, each tap resonating with a promise of forthcoming dread.